Yeah. Okay. So we are reading, I was told, in the 17th chapter, which is entitled The Divisions of Faith. And it's the verse right after the big purport that you read previously, all about the different types of foods that you can eat in the various modes of nature. So that would be... We're reading verse 11 this week, correct?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Is anybody here new for the first time? Ira? Do you know anything about Bhagavad-gita or Krishna consciousness? A little bit? Okay. All right. Of course, the Bhagavad-gita is Krishna's instruction for everyone. It's described in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. It's for everyone in all times, places, and circumstances. So the idea that we're new or we're intermediate or been around a long time, on the ultimate platform, from Krishna's point of view, we're all eternally related with him. So we're all, like they say, the common expression, old souls. So Krishna's instruction is so wonderful, which the Bhagavad-gita is the essence of Krishna's instruction. When we talk to people, we say this book will explain everything: who you are, why you're here, where you came from, what you're supposed to do while you're here, where you're going afterwards, and how we should all interrelate with each other. Everything is explained very nicely in this one book. So within that, because Krishna, we are an emanation from Krishna. And the first thing to understand, where is separated part and parcel. Jiva, in Sanskrit, the word jiva tattva, or the constitutional position of the individual soul, or Shakti, an energy emanating from Krishna. Krishna is called the Shaktiman. He's the reservoir of all potency, or the controller and enjoyer of all energies. And we, the living entity, we are the Shakti, or the energy. There's the energetic, in other words, the energy and the energetic. So Krishna is ultimately the unlimited enjoyer of all the activities of every living being in their pure state, ultimately. So because of that, we have a very intimate relationship with Krishna. It's not that Krishna consciousness is something to be gained, it's something to be uncovered and reawakened. So Krishna, who's within us, one of the aspects of the science of Krishna is that he's expanded into the heart of every living entity as the Upadrasta and Unamata. He is the overseer and permitter and sanctioner. And it's described in the Ishopanishad. He is fulfilling everyone's desire. Since time immemorial, we say that saying, man proposes, God disposes. So people to walk in the midtown Manhattan at rush hour and not bump into each other, in the cars and taxis and buses, not to have an accident. Krishna's giving everybody the intelligence and directing their senses how to act properly so that it can go on. So of course that's just material energy. There's no God consciousness in that, so to speak. So what to speak of if Krishna's supplying the intelligence how to eat, how to sleep, how to put a roof over your head and, make money and everything else that everyone's thinking about all the time, then how much more he'll be inclined to give intelligence and right understanding to one who is actually desirous of seeking him and seeking real truth. Reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. So the Bhagavad-gita is most empowered in that way. So we're going through it from beginning to end. Maybe how many times in the 7-8 years have you gone through the book around? You lost count?
No, we're almost finished with the first time.
First time. Wow.
Verse by verse.
Okay, so there's 900 verses. 700 verses. And 52 verses a year.
Approximately, yeah. So 52 times 8 is 416. So I guess we're going at about the rate of 1 2/3 verse per week.
Okay. So that's very nice, but at the same time, from any place that you touch, then what you need to know, what you need to help your transcendental realization and faith become more pronounced and strong, Krishna from within the heart will help you. So I just wanted to say that. That's kind of our encouragement to anyone coming for the first time, because many of the devotees here, people are coming a long time. And so it's like when you come to a new club or a new association, you're a newcomer and everyone's been there for a long time, then that there should be some effort to make the newcomer feel welcome, or that they're not at any kind of loss or handicap because all of us older people, we know everything and you don't, and therefore we're better or anything. So Krishna doesn't act like that. Even when we go back home, back to the spiritual world, it's not like we're going to be wearing a scarlet letter for the rest of eternity that we fell down and we came back up, and therefore we're not as good as the eternally liberated souls who never came to this material world. That's not the way things are looked at. Okay, so this is called The Divisions of Faith, which is a chapter which is very, very nice. It's actually a very scientific chapter, and it can help us to understand why people are the way they are, why they think a certain way, why they like to eat a certain type of food, what type of atmosphere they're attracted to. And it's based on that there are the material energy, how it works, grossly, giving different types of material bodies from, the different species of life, abominable, what we consider hogs that eat stool, or you see dogs, they're smelling, like that. We wouldn't do that. Human being, that's abominable. But for these types of animals and species of life, this is their pleasure. So these are the modes of material nature which make people and living entities be attracted to and think certain ways and have faith in certain things. And those modes of nature are 3, just like there's 3 primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, and you mix them together and you get the whole spectrum, you get all the colors, and so many different mixtures, and artists are very, very attuned and keen to utilize the spectrum of colors to make their masterpiece. So the modes of material nature, they act upon us physically and also subtly, our mind and intelligence. So the body is made up of senses, just like our mind tells us, oh, I want this, so then the senses immediately go, I should touch this, I should try to eat this, I should acquire this. And the mind is immediately there to make us feel that this is me, and I should do this. And then higher than the mind is the intelligence. Well, maybe I shouldn't do this, because if I try to touch this or try to get this, I might get in trouble. Like I remember on the Hoyt Skimmerhorn, actually Ayendra Prabhu told me this. I've seen similar, but back in 1983 or 4, he was waiting for the A train at the Skimmerhorn Street subway station, and there was a so-called drunk, disheveled, maybe homeless person, that's what he appeared to be, drunk, staggering on the platform, whistling and carooning and going up to people, hey, how you doing? And he had a $20 bill dangling out of his pocket. And Ayendra Prabhu, he was looking at all the different people, and they were all eyeing the $20 bill, and he could tell what they were thinking. I would like to take this $20 bill.
Oh my God.
So one hotshot slickster, he decided, I'm going to take the $20 bill, and he sneaks up behind, and it's, and then, the guy just looks totally drunk. This is going to be easy. He just puts his hand, and he takes the $20 bill, and as soon as he takes it, that so-called drunk wheels around with a handcuff. You're under arrest, buddy. You're going downtown. He was an undercover cop.
Oh.
So that's intelligence to tell you, well, maybe I shouldn't do something, right? And then the intelligence should be purified intelligence. It should be meant, the intelligence, not just, that, okay, I won't take the $20 bill, but their desire is I wanted to take it, But when our intelligence is trained up to obey the orders of the soul, then our intelligence and the mind and the senses all become very nicely our best friend. I think people go to like AA or NA or Gamblers Anonymous or whatever, I got this uncontrollable problem and addiction, and how can I stop it? So in Krishna consciousness, Paramdristvanivartante, we give up lower taste, like the alcoholic or the drug addict. They know this is wrong, but they just can't help themselves. And Arjuna, he asks earlier in the 3rd chapter, what impels a man to act against his own will, even against his own better intelligence? And it's because of lust or one's desire, and intelligence has not been purified. That is the answer. So when the soul obeys or follows the order or the desire of the Supreme Soul, Krishna is the soul of everyone's soul, the very self of our self, then that is the perfection and fulfillment ultimately of desire. It's not like impersonalist or voidist philosophy that, okay, these material desires and thoughts have gotten me into trouble, so let me just stop them. Because we can't stop desiring, we can't stop thinking, feeling, and willing. It's meant to be engaged in the spiritual energy. There's a prayer that we say to the chief of Krishna's internal spiritual potencies, Srimati Brindadevi, Tulsi Devi, please give me the privilege of devotional service. In other words, when we understand the greatness, the profundity, the topmost munificence, the topmost pleasure, which has no comparison to even the topmost pleasure in this material world, and we understand this is really what I want. That is the perfection of use of intelligence. So this chapter, The Divisions of Faith, is very instructive if we keep that in mind. So without further ado, there is a Sanskrit to this verse, and then there's a word-for-word translation of each of the Sanskrit words or phrases. So we'll read the phrases one after the other. I'll say, and then you can repeat. And then we'll read the verse straight through. Then we'll go back and read the English translation, read the translation in its entirety, and then read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. All right? So these are Krishna's words. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture as a matter of duty by those who desire no reward is of the nature of goodness, which is the highest mode of nature, the purest, which is the stepping stone to beyond goodness, but Suddha Sattva, or pure, uncontaminated, unalloyed goodness. So let's say this together. Of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture.
The sacrifice performed according to the directions of Scripture.
As a matter of duty.
As a matter of duty.
By those who desire no reward.
By those who desire no reward.
Is of the nature of goodness.
Is of the nature of goodness.
Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
The general tendency is to offer sacrifice with some purpose in mind. But here it is stated that sacrifice should be performed without any such desire. It means I will do if I get. I give you if you give me. There's calculation. You no give me, I no give you. You no do for me, I no do for you. And it's who's going to do first? Oh, if you go first, then I'll do. Well, I don't know if I go first. Can I trust you? Will you do? I don't know. It should be done as a matter of duty. Take, for example, the performance of rituals in temples or in churches. Generally, they are performed with the purpose of material benefit, but that is not in the mode of goodness. One should go to a temple or church as a matter of duty, offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and offer flowers and eatables without any purpose of obtaining material benefit. Everyone thinks that there is no use in going to the temple just to worship God. But worship for economic benefit is not recommended in the scriptural injunctions. One should go simply to offer respects to the deity. That will place one in the mode of goodness. It is the duty of every civilized man to obey the injunctions of the scriptures and offer respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we now say there are some invocation or standard prayers, which, what page would that be on in the books that you have? When we approach the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is so great that we need to elicit the mercy, blessings, and permission of his associates and devotees in line, just like if you wanted to meet, at least New York City is very unpopular, the President of the United States. I'll say something about Donald Trump real quick. The devotees were performing the first 1976 New York Rath Yatra, and they were at 55th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue, and they needed a place to build the 3 big giant carts, so they went down to the West Side Yards there, just after the West Side Highway comes to an end, and they went to, try to talk to who was ever there, and they say, well, we just sold this property, you have to go talk to the current owner. If he gives permission, no problem, here's his address. So they went over there, and a man in his mid-30s, and or so, early to mid-30s, and say such and such, this is what we want to do, and this and that, and we understand this is your property, and this, okay, and the man said, okay, I like you guys, I like the Hare Krishnas, you can do it, free of charge. That was Donald Trump. So, anyway, so if you want to meet the president, you have to get the secretaries and the lower staff, and you can't just barge into the office. So, Krishna is like that. If those who are already in his strict, intimate confidence, if they are favorable to us, then Krishna, he'll automatically be favorable. That's why we need to hire a good lawyer, so he can stake our case. Atma can tell us about that, right? So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Rave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitams Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. And Shri Radha Govinda in the Skimmerhorn Temple are the presiding deities of the Hare Krishna movement here in New York, installed by the hand of Srila Prabhupada and worshipped by him. Very powerful deities. I was initiated, took my vows of initiation in front of them, so there's a prayer that I will extra insert for them. Dibyad Brindaranya Kultur Bhujumada Srimad Ratnagara Sringhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prestalabi Sevyamano Smarami. The translation is, in the Temple of Jewels, underneath the desire trees of Vrindavan, seated upon an effulgent throne with with all valuable diamonds, jewels, and rubies, are seated the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha and Govinda, who are served by their most confidential associates. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto them. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, personal prayer to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. My obeisances unto you, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. He is very dear. You are very dear to Lord Krishna, having on this earth, having taken shelter at the feet of the Transcendental Lord. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarane. Obeisances unto you, O Master, O servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are so kindly teaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and are delivering these Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. So I'm going to inject the comment that I wanted to make earlier, that we should never think ourselves as something wonderful or special or great preachers, but we should only aspire that we can be used instrumentally in the hands of our predecessors. Just like, let me be a good scalpel or tweezers or tool on the actual qualified surgeon's table, and he will use us to cut away the knots of materialistic illusion and misconception in the minds and hearts of those that we will speak to, and allow them to realize their own supremely liberated position in love of Godhead. And that is such a nice position to take. Srila Prabhupada one time was one of the parents of the devotees, somebody maybe my age or a little younger, seeing Prabhupada getting this tremendous airport reception. The devotees were practically in like a tearful, emotional frenzy. They're so much overcome by greeting Krishna's pure devotee. And so the parent went up, these young people, they're worshiping you. Like there's something wrong with that, or this is just, how can you allow this? Or, And Prabhupada was very humble. He said, yes, that is our system. I am worshiping my spiritual master. And one devotee, in ecstasy one time, he paid his obeisances to Prabhupada and said, Jai Srila Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada said, Jai Srila Prabhupada back. And he didn't understand right away, what is he praising himself? But he was thinking that his spiritual master is also called Srila Prabhupada. So this is the very nice thing, and this is what this purport is speaking about, how we do things selflessly. And that actually opens us up to the platform of pure, selfless love without the you give me and I give you. If I give you, will you not give me? And you give first and I don't know and I'm going to try to trick you and this and that. Spiritual life in the spiritual world is devoid of these types of unfortunate calculations, which in a city like New York, for example, we have to be making such decisions and thoughts at least 300 times a day, right? Or more. So, Prabhupada begins the purport by saying the general tendency is to offer sacrifice with some purpose in mind. So, when we think that we forget our position as an eternal servant and lover of God, then we think of ourselves as a separated enjoyer, and we're making all types of plans and desiring and thinking all different types of things based on Maya. Maya literally means that which is not, an illusion. If you go chasing after a mirage of water in the desert, you're thirsty, but you're never going to get water. The mirage is always out of reach. But that you want water, that's not false. But chasing after water in the mirage, that's wrong. That's false, because real water is not there. It's elsewhere. But the very fact that there can be such a manifestation of a mirage or shadow is because it's based on actual substance being somewhere else. So Prabhupada is explaining that one should approach God without any ulterior purpose. It should be done selflessly. Then real love can manifest. So when that's not the position, there's all different types of materialism, or what we call anarthas. Anarthas means unwanted things. If I sit you down and we have a beautiful feast plate with all different, like 12 different preparations and nectar drink, and all of a sudden you're about to eat, and then I just take a bunch of like sand or, dirt from the street outside and just throw it in there. It's still the same food, but it's practically become unacceptable, untouchable because of all the contaminants put in. So our spiritual life is already here, but when we are more or less just kind of burdened or bogged down by the weight of so much materialism and misconceptions, then practically speaking, for many people, as Prabhupada's mentioning in the purport, they can't even understand the difference between real spiritual life and just plain materialism. In fact, the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the very beginning, giving a definition of what the Bhagavatam and the process of Bhagavad Dharma, pure unalloyed devotion to the Lord, is all about. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana, this book, Krishna's book, which is the postgraduate study to the Bhagavad-gita, to be read in conjunction and in tandem with Bhagavad-gita, propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. So if you and I were about to eat the meal and some knucklehead throws the dirt and the sand in it, we can automatically realize we can't take that. That's good, because people who are too much conditioned by materialism, they think this is very nice. This is the mentality, like we were hearing about people accepting eatables, which are what animals should eat, or even lower than animals, eating stool and just eating anything. This is not for human beings. So this is when human beings become implicated in lower desire, lower modes of nature, their intelligence becomes contaminated, then they accept something which is very bad, very wrong, very detrimental, to be what they think to be something very good and praiseworthy. So this is very, very, very dangerous when one's intelligence and conceptions of life are implicated in this way. Srila Prabhupada warned that this Kali Yuga, which facilitates and even accelerates such types of thinking and lifestyles, is very, very dangerous and risky for someone who actually wants ultimate welfare and really wants to achieve the real fruit and the real goal of this human form of life. So this is understandable by devotees who are fully pure in heart. But if we're not even fully pure in heart, this Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Dharma and Krishna consciousness is so nice and so powerful, as I was saying earlier. No matter who we are or where we're coming from, Krishna's there to help you to understand what you need to know right then and there at that moment. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Uproots. Gradually takes away. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, the culture of knowledge of the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. To those who are constantly devoted, making the attempt to practice devotional service with right motivation, Krishna gives them the intelligence by which they can come to me. And Prabhupada says here that religion is the special function of the living entity. Dogs, cats, pigeons, pigs in the village, they don't have religion. They're simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So human beings, these are things that the material body, human beings do: eat, sleep, mate, and defend. Defending also means making sure there's a roof over your head and that Con Edison is hooked up, and then you'll stay warm in the wintertime, or you have to go buy clothing so you not get cold, and you don't have to sleep like this poor, unfortunate destitute outside 26 2nd Avenue in this little cardboard box here with your shopping cart chained to the railing. It's very unfortunate. These are common both to animals and to human beings, but religion is the extra function of the human being. Without religion, human life is no better than animal life. In the lower stages of human civilization, there's always competition to lord it over the material nature, to gratify the senses. Driven by such consciousness, man turns to religion. So in Union Square, there's a flagpole in the middle of the park, which curiously enough has a Sudarshan chakra spinning wheel on top of it, but it was erected for the 150th anniversary of United States independence in July of 1926. And there's a saying by Thomas Jefferson, "Oh, my countrymen do not know what great gifts have been endowed upon them by the Creator." And it's got like a motif of like pilgrims and westward ho and thrashing wheat and, smashing anvils and locomotives and Native American Indians submissively accepting whatever they do and like that. So this country was, so to speak, founded, for religious freedom. And when they discovered how rich and how glorious was this North American continent, and they very progressively and very enthusiastically went west and conquered everything, and it took over all the resources and subjugated the native population, then we see, as say like late 19th century into the beginning of the 20th century, the Industrial Revolution, more and more religion just went down. Man is thriving economically, so at present they're not very interested in religion. Churches, mosques, or temples are practically vacant. Men are more interested in factories, shops, cinemas, and many other things, than in religious places which were erected by their forefathers. So you go, still even India today, we won't get so much into discussing modern day India, but if there's a religious festival or the ancient temples that have been associated with the Lord and his incarnations and his pure devotees since antiquity, for hundreds and thousands of years, many, many hundreds of thousands of people turn up. And we'll go through all different types of austerities, standing in line and going through all different types of physical hardship to get that blessing of that pilgrimage. Like here, people are going to come out on this night not fit for man or beast to go party in the East Village. They're not doing that to go to church. They're not going that to get the blessings of God. They're doing that to satisfy their sense gratification. So, men are more interested in Essex Street and Houston Street, Avenue A. I just lived here for 2 years, and I would walk every morning at 2 o'clock in the morning or so from Pitt Street, which is basically Avenue C below Houston, to here to chant my rounds, and then the Bhakti Center for their Mangalarti. And especially Thursday and Friday night, it was like walking through a zombie apocalypse at that time of the day, or night. You know, everybody completely mad and intoxicated and just like crazed out of their minds, you know. And then by the time which is most perfect for godly and spiritual people, the dawn, all of those zombies had to quickly crawl back into their coffins and place the lid on tight so the light of day wouldn't touch them, you know.
What's the environment? How would you characterize the environment where you're now residing when you walk out?
It's better. Now we live on the Upper West Side.
Nothing compared to that.
Men are more interested in factory shops than in the religious places which were erected by their forefathers. There's a church on, speaking of Halloween, that these Halloween superstores on 12th Street and 4th Avenue,
Yes.
huge. I watch year to year, and the 6th Avenue Halloween parade, it just grows in importance year to year. And this church is always vacant. They even put signs, you are free to sit here and study and do whatever you want. Actually, one devotee turned me on to that. What's that like? Grace Church? It's like on 10th Street, Broadway, yes.
I think you're referring to the one that has Star Wars, the original Star Wars costumes, the Halloween shop.
They have all kinds of things
They
over
have
there.
huge gargoyles.
Yeah, Gothic Warehouse, it's
Yeah.
called, or something. So people are more interested in that than in the churches erected by their forefathers. This practically proves that religion is performed for some economic gains. Economic gains are needed for sense gratification. So then when you get the sense gratification, why do we need God anymore? Let's just enjoy. Often when one is baffled in the pursuit of sense gratification, he takes to salvation or so-called spirituality, but the aim or the ultimate conclusion is to think that you're equal with God, which is like the worst type of illusion. Better to just be illusioned by animalistic sense gratification and give some type of token respect that God is great. You know, say a few, you know, words or something once a week and get free from your sins, and I believe in God, but I'm just, you know, then to think that to adopt or concoct or accept some philosophy that you're one with Lord, one with God. Consequently, all these states are simply different types of sense gratification. And the illusion is so great that when people who accept a token sprinkling of religion just to make themselves feel good about themselves, that I'm religious and I believe in God, but they're just going on with their material life very strongly, when they see those who are completely devoted to the purpose of God and to the service of God, they think that they're lazy and idle parasites and sycophants sucking off the hard work of people like them in human society. They don't understand that the work of selfless devotees of the Lord is to act on behalf of the Lord and spread knowledge of pure devotional service, which in and of itself is an occupational work, which is even more time-consuming, strenuous than so-called working just to make money for fruit of gains. So by doing this, one actually, as we were saying earlier, our process is to please the Lord. The Lord becomes very pleased. There is a verse in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam describing the best and most powerful and all-encompassing sacrifice or activity that is accepted and most pleasing to the Supreme Lord in the time or age that we're living. The verse is, Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedhasaha Krishna Varnam Visa Krishnam Sango Pangascha Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedhasaha. So that is describing that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared in the golden form, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is one of the early paintings over here, commissioned or instructed by Srila Prabhupada back in 1966. And this is Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his principal associates, and they are inaugurating and beginning the religion or dharma or the prime method of sacrifice for the age. And just the very word sacrifice in terms of the spiritual happiness of pleasing God is kind of a oxymoron, because we think of sacrifice, I'm giving something up. I really don't want to give it up. I want this, but okay, all right, just to show you that I'm a good guy, or that I'm sincere. I really want to do it, but I won't do it. Or I really want to keep it, but I'll give it to you. But in Krishna consciousness, sacrifice means I'm giving up something that I really don't want to do. I don't want to engage in materialism. I don't want to, have pleasure that's on the same standard as lower animals. I'll gladly give that up, and I'll accept the paramananda, the spiritual happiness of pure sambandha, reciprocation with the Lord. And there's another verse that's also in the next canto, the final canto, 12th canto, Kaler dosana de rajan, hasti ekha mahagunad, kirtanadeva krishnasya, mukta sangha parambrajet. That means that although this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, it's very, very, very hard to find the pure feast, the 12-course meal, underneath all the dirt and sand that's thrown on top of it. Everything is just so contaminated. Very hard to filter it out. One of the acharyas has given a very interesting analogy, which I thought was very nice. I think you'll like it too, to the discriminating transcendentalist, or the truly motivated, purely motivated seeker, spiritual seeker, trying to discern matter from spirit, reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. That if you're carrying a basket of very valuable jewels and rubies, and you trip somehow or another, and you fall, and the whole basket goes alley-oop up in the air, and it all falls into the sand at the beach. So that process of bending down and picking up every single jewel, out of all the pebbles and, dirt and whatever is not the jewel, carefully doing it and putting it back in the basket, that is the process of regaining our spiritual intelligence and being able to discern matter from spirit. And the ultimate perfection, the term is, one becomes Paramahamsa, one who can actually understand the true, ultimate, perfect essence of everything, everyone, in all times, places, and circumstances. So this is what Krishna consciousness leads us to. So, although this Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there's one good quality, that simply by adopting the process which Krishna Varna Dvisa Krishnam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inaugurated, the Yuga Dharma, the Prema Dharma. Dharma means the constitutional nature of the soul, the primal, perfected, pure activity of the soul. That's the real definition of religion. People say religion, this religion, But you can't change your Dharma. Your Dharma is eternal. I can be a Jew today, a Christian tomorrow, or vice versa. That's based on faith, or material desire, or temporary inclination or something. So, by accepting that Dharma, one becomes completely purified. Glory to this process of Sankirtan, the Yuga Dharma, because it thoroughly, completely cleanses all the anarthas from the heart and gives one the most Shreya Karaiva Chandrika Vitaranam, the cooling white lotus of love of Godhead shining constantly on one's heart at all times of the day or the night. That by engaging in this Yuga Dharma, this chanting of Hare Krishna, all that could be perfectly accomplished in the better ages, Satya Yuga, where everybody was practically a Paramahamsa. People's lifespan was up to 100,000 years. Everyone can sit down perfectly with complete control of the mind and senses and meditate on the absolute truth. Everyone was completely peaceful. There was no vice. There was no criminality. That age, as it wore on, from 100% came down to 75% of virtue intact. Then in the Treta Yuga, Elaborate real sacrifice, vast amounts of gold and riches. We couldn't even keep up with 5 minutes of such sacrifice, which would go on for thousands of years in the Treta Yuga. And in Dwapara Yuga, elaborate deity worship, also very, very expensive. Treta Yuga, people could live to be 10,000 years. In Dwapara Yuga, people could live to be 1,000 years. Now in Kali Yuga, 100 years utmost, diminishing more and more. It's described in the 12th canto that at the end of this Kali Yuga, you'll be lucky to live to be 25 or 30 years old. You'd be considered a ripe old man or lady. People will become barbarians and hunt each other and eat each other like cannibals. There will be no fruits, vegetables, grains, or milk. Everything will simply be meat. There'll be practically no religion. There'll be no pure devotional service at the very end. So this is Kali Yuga.
This is how many years away?
427,000 more years to go.
Sound good.
That's another discussion. Now we're in what's called a eddy within the Kali Yuga. Krishna comes to give this most powerful divine dispensation that you get love of Godhead. The highest type of love of God. There's various levels of love of Godhead. It's not just all generically one. But the highest form of love of Godhead, it appears, and the example is given. I remember going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art as a child with my mother, and I saw the Hope Diamond. We stood on a big long line. And when we got into the chamber, it was very dark, and it was like a plush bluish violet velvet. And then the diamond was there with like one spotlight in a very dark, and then it was like, wow. And we were allowed our couple of minutes to see, and then the line kept moving. So the diamond, this Hope Diamond, really hope, the hope of devotional service, pure devotional service, seen in the dark setting of this Kali Yuga, it's even more attractive, more transcendently alluring, and creates or stimulates udipan, intense desires for it. Whereas if you were to see the Hope Diamond in the bright sunlight, in a bright place, or with little fluorescent lights or whatever, it wouldn't have the same impact. So, therefore, sages and saintly persons wish all good luck for this age of Kali, because simply by adopting the Sankirtan movement, one can achieve everything that could have been done in the previous ages and a whole lot more. So, those with Su is a prefix in Sanskrit which means very, very good or auspicious. So sometimes you'll see people with Indian names, Sunanda, Subhadra, Sughosh, etc. Su means very, very good. Su Medasaha. Meda means mind. Asaha, very good thinking. So those who are endowed with very good intelligence, they engage in this process of Sankirtan. So that is the ultimate sacrifice. And Krishna himself, wanting to experience the happiness of this sacrifice, personally came to inaugurate it and to enjoy it as himself. He came in the role of a devotee. He wanted to experience, we think, oh, what is that saying? Better the rain in hell. Better the rain in the Gothic superstore than to serve in heaven, right? Krishna, he wants to experience the role of being a servant, because it's a pleasure from his position that he can't understand as the master. So he adopts the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and at the same time distributes the highest method of approach to the Supreme Lord, which facilitates the topmost pleasure, Paramananda, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is the ultimate sacrifice. And this is real selfless sacrifice. It's not selfless like I'm nobody, I have no identity. Prabhupada said it's not that ego is wrong, false ego is wrong, but the ego should be purified. And that is the ultimate self-realization. Any questions or comments on anything thus spoken? We'll stop there. Your Joy's hand went up first, then Gloria.
How many more years?
Could you speak a little bit louder?
How many more years are in Kali Yuga?
Kali Yuga is 432,000 years, and that began at the conclusion, when Krishna left the planet, which was 5,000. We want to try to figure it out exactly. Krishna was manifest 125 years, so he made his appearance 5,000 years ago. So 5,125 years.
Minus 400.
You're a good math. You figure it out. You do the math.
426,875 years.
There's your number.
You're amazing.
Yeah, he's Mr. Math.
Sasha's actually Mr. Math.
Sasha, do you agree with what? I'm sure he will.
She's good at math.
Even if he doesn't, he'll say he does.
That's right.
Anyway, we shouldn't wait for that. We have our very small lifespan. Prabhupada would say, what is this, 50, 60, at most 100 years, So, this Krishna consciousness facilitates ourselves becoming completely perfect in one lifetime. I've been attempting to practice Krishna consciousness for some 40 years, and the more I attempt to execute Krishna consciousness, the more I understand how great the goal is, and the more, feeling of, it's simultaneous. There's some regret that I couldn't do more, or I couldn't be as more serious, but at the same time, faith and confidence that I am trying my best, and the assurance of our Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, that by rigidly following and doing your level best, you don't have anything to worry about. Krishna from his side will take care. There's a statement in the 3rd canto that the devotee thinks that he's not fit to go back to the spiritual world in one lifetime. But the Lord, understanding the devotee's pure mentality and pure desire and humility, makes all arrangements without the devotee realizing or knowing to take him back home, back to Godhead, just after leaving the present material body. So, if everyone is being supplied intelligence not to crash their cars and walk as pedestrians and, and make money and do everything else they do in material life, then how much more will the Lord be inclined to help the devotees who are sacrificing everything for his mission? Gloria?
Can you expand a little bit on the process of Sankirtan that you spoke about, and its connection with acquiring this purer level of intelligence?
Yeah. So Sankirtan, San means together, and Kirtan means glorifying. Actually, also what we're doing here is Sankirtan. We're the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the sound incarnation of Krishna, Radha, and Krishna. Mukta Sangha, all the associates, the entire spiritual world is there in this Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra is everything. So the expanded Vidyavadu Jivanam, or knowledge, Vidya means knowledge of Krishna, hearing about that, discussing the name, fame, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage of Krishna, Krishna's philosophy, that is also Kirtan. So this is Sankirtan. We're doing this right here together. So then we have our own personal Sankirtan, which is our japa, our chanting on our beads. That's our private audience with Krishna, or Krishna's chance to have private audience with you. Don't try to see God, but act in such a way that God wants to see you. Don't try to become attracted towards Krishna. Well, yeah, I might say, but act in such a way that Krishna will want to be attracted to you.
Right.
You see? So people try to make themselves attractive in the material world so that others will be attracted to them. But a devotee, by his internal activities and following the path of saints, it's called the sadhu bhushana. It is the ornaments of the saint, which are pridelessness, humility, truthfulness, so many good qualities. These are actually the valuable jewels and beautiful dress that enhances the beauty of your soul, that makes Krishna become very much attracted to you. That is the real pleasure, not trying to falsely, make yourself temporarily beautiful with some type of material arrangement based on this body. So this Krishna consciousness movement is meant to show people, to help people to reawaken to the understanding that godly activities, activities of saintliness, are much more pleasurable, much more beautiful and attractive than any type of so-called materialism, no matter how slick it's packaged or no matter how many lemmings running into the sea are also doing it. We don't want to be following the herd. We don't want to be one of the lemmings. We want to be able to think for ourselves. So then when we come together with other people who have made that determination to think properly based on my identity as a spirit soul, then when those all come together, those types of persons, then Krishna is very, very much attracted to shower his mercy upon that assembly. And even more, that in the assembly of pure seekers and pure devotees strongly bonded together for that common purpose, then Maya cannot infiltrate. It's described that if we individually try to do, it's like if I pick up a stick in the forest, like a child, or whatever, gone to summer camp, I'll just break it. But if you gather a whole bunch of bundle of sticks together and they're all tightly packed up, can't break it. So that's the real strength in numbers, not strength in everybody going out drinking and carousing in the East Village. They think we're all cool doing that. So we desire the association of pure devotees. Pure devotees are very, very powerful by the grace of the Lord. Prabhupada gave the example. It was just the beginning of Kartik 4 days ago, and it was the Sarat Purnima on the 24th, and one full moon in the sky is worth more, gives much more illumination, much more cooling light and soothing solace and pleasure to the heart than tens and thousands of stars, little tiny. So a pure devotee can illuminate this entire planet by very, very vibrant transcendental knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada was so much empowered as a beautiful full moon, so we simply want to try to reflect his light and give that to others. Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee, is free of envy, he's free of malice, and he's only desiring the welfare of others. There's a prayer to the Vaishnava that we were saying, that they can fulfill the desire of everyone. Not house, car, color, TV, Jai Jagadish Hari desire. So that's a little Indian joke, There's a Jai Jagadish Hari, so like on all the TV commercials, Bollywood movies, But they're really saying, I want a house and a car and a color TV, Jai Jagadish Hari, like that. The ultimate desire the pure devotee can't fulfill. Actually, we were offering obeisances to Rupa Goswami when Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada was established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire. When we understand that Krishna has very, very beautiful and variegated loving desires, and we try to fulfill those desires, that becomes the perfection of our heart's desire. So Srila Rupa Goswami was the chief student and disciple of Srila Prabhupada, of Lord Chaitanya, and he established his mission. So there's a prayer to Rupa Goswami by one of the subsequent followers in disciplic succession in the late 1500s, whose day of ascension back to Godhead, his final beatitude is on Monday, the disappearance day of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, says, by offering my obeisances to Srila Rupa Goswami and his immediate associates, the 6 Goswamis, all obstacles to devotion, or all problems in the mind and heart, things that direct us wrongly, all of those things are removed, and my real desire is manifest and fulfilled. We should understand what is the perfection of desire. Also, Narottam Das Thakur is taught that by trying to render service to that standard of pure devotee, Sri Guru Charani Rati Ase Uttam. Uttam means topmost. Gati means goal. Ye prashade pure sarva asha. By pleasing that standard, that Mahabhagavat, that Paramahamsa, that is the perfection of all desire. So we should be very intensely eager to understand what is our real desire. And for that, the pure devotees, they are oceans of compassionate mercy, because they understand what is the real desire of the soul. And they are never, ever bewildered by the so-called gross and subtle offenses of the bewildered soul. And of course, Prabhupada would give the example and extol many, many times, perhaps the greatest example, and we all know, Lord Jesus Christ, who was being subjected to the most heinous treatment by those he was trying to help, by being mercilessly beaten and then crucified. It's described that when Jesus made eye contact with Judas after he betrayed him and turned him over to the first set of police, the police force of the Jewish Sanhedrin, who later then turned him over to the Romans, Pontius Pilate, who wasn't very enthusiastic at all about it. But then when they threatened him, saying, Pontius Pilate, if you don't do something, then you're going to get demoted and deported and you're going to have a problem with Caesar, then he reluctantly went along. So you would think Jesus would have every right to be angry at Judas. You know, you were my intimate student, you were my disciple, I trusted you, and you did this to me? I think he would be angry, but no, he looked at Judas with great love and actually thanked him. Because by your doing this, he knew what was about to happen. That my mission would be accelerated very rapidly. And people would embrace my teachings. And it would spread all over this planet. So he thanked Judas. Because you were an instrument in the hands of God. Thank you very much. I offer my respectful obeisances to the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the real desires of everyone and are oceans of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.